Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Myself, Architect Shruti Gupta. My colleague Ankita will give introduction. Over to Ankita.
Thank you, Shruti. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Architect Ankita Revankar, Assistant Professor at Vogue Institute of Art and Design. I take great pride in introducing our institute. Vogue stands with the glory of 24 years of successful journey in the domain of fashion and design education. The institute started in the year 1996 by a visionary Dr. M.M. Karyappa, chairman, who has composed the best feasible attributes to build the institute into an incredible place for learning, thus creating a planet of creativity where the young minds churn out their creative abilities into reality. The institution has been hosting a series of webinars for its students to bridge the gap between industry practices and academics. The topic of today's webinar is Design Approach. So here I'm introducing the spokesperson of this session, who's the founder of Architecture Plus Design Lab, Architect Ankit Berry. A plus D Lab is actively engaged in the creation of contextually appropriate solutions within an increasingly changing world. Set up in Ranchi and Raipur, it's a design studio focusing primarily on the fields of architecture and interior design. Welcome to the webinar, Ankit. Over to you.
Thank you, Ankita, for such a warm introduction. So, hello everyone, and thank you, Vogue, for inviting me again. Today, we'll be giving a webinar on design approach. I hope this will help current interior design and architecture design students, and for that matter, young architects and designers as well. Our last webinar was more of a non-specific in nature. So it was very much approachable to everyone who was attending. Today's webinar will be more technical in nature, and I believe it will be very helpful for the young designers. So let's begin. Ankita, can you make me the host so that I can share my screen?
How do I do that? Shruti, can you help me?
Ankit?
Yeah, you made me the host?
Yeah, you can now share.
Okay. So before we proceed further, just few basic hygiene of how we will conduct this webinar. So if you have any questions which you want to ask me, you will write in question and answer box. And whenever we are interacting and I ask any question, you will reply in the chat box. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Ankit, it's visible.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, so let's start today's webinar, that is design approach in interior design. As Ankita has already introduced me, I would not waste any time in my introduction. I'll just give a brief introduction that we are architecture and design labs at Ranchi and Raipur, and we do a lot of architecture interior design projects, and we believe in environmentally and contextually appropriate solution for all of our design projects. So let's begin today's webinar. So what is the design approach? By definition, an approach to design is a method or process in which a design is being done and a design is being conducted. What is great design? Great design does not happen by chance. It is more of an aesthetic that serves the eye than the real design, which actually happens on site. Great design are those that successfully balance beauty and function in the context that are being used on the site. There's a very fine line between successfully balanced design and other design, where aesthetic and functions are misused and overdone. how important is context in great design? Very important. Context is the key to great design. It can be divided into multiple factors. Say example for time. So one particular design is unlikely to be successful in two different scenarios. What may be successful yesterday will not maybe able to work now. By culture, what works in the West may not work in the East. By economic situation, what may be successful through a thriving economy may not be pertinent in recession. What better example can we have other than year this 2020? What may work before this pandemic times might not work after the pandemic. So in conclusion, design approach is something that conveys the present, intrigue and represents something and then solves the problem. So we'll come to the categories of design approach, or rather I'll say concept. So we often use this word concept in design development. A concept is like an idea, a theory, a notion, but in design, a concept is an approach to design. We may think of concept as something of an abstract idea, one that is unchanged throughout the design process. This is not necessarily the case. A concept can be linked through multiple factors and can grow as the design grows. You don't really have to stick to one concept. You can have multiple concepts and you can marry all these concepts and go through the design. And this concept can actually evolve throughout the design process. They are a means of transforming our non-physical design problems into physical building material. There are many approaches through which we can approach a design. It can be functional. It can be through materials. It can be conceptual. It can be conceptual. It can be formal. It can be collaborative. Can be philosophical. Can be sustainable, as we have discussed in our previous presentation, breathing interiors. Can be experiential, can be affordable. The above mentioned themes can combine and shift and expand to explore different approaches of design at different times. So now I'll explain all these in a little brief. So what is functional design? See, functionality is a term which we use a lot in our design process. So what is functionality? Functionality isn't a word that young designers are very keen to acknowledge, yet the importance of this word cannot be understated. Functionality approach is basically an approach that focuses on what is necessary and what is important. The purpose is to create a space that are efficient with design and space being determined by its own primary function. What is the room going to be used for? We have to ask this again and again. Space planning has to come first, which includes the definition of the route that is taken to move through the space, so that we know that what actually is the circulation area, and more or less this determines where the furniture and the layout is going to be done. It is an interior design task to maximize the efficiency of the space using the tools that are at the disposal. Just because we focus on the functional approach of the design does not mean that we cannot demonstrate creative approach and flair. This can be done through multiple approaches, but at the same time, what is really important is that the functional of the space should be the prime focus while designing the space. See, when we say a functionality approach is the main focus, what actually happens that it removes the wastage of the space, the wastage of the material, and the wastage of the cost. The purpose is to create a space that are efficient with the design and space which is determined by its own primary focus of the function. The use of the space directs the floor plan, the layout, and the furniture. This is in particularity ideal when it comes to the design of a commercial space or a home design. Next is the approach of materials. By focusing on specific materials, we will be able to naturally lead towards a particular form of construction and thus making our design grow very organically. See, the experience of a space is 90% dependent upon the material featured. Materials that look and feel great will always have a more specific and more positive impact on the people. We may select material approach based on our site context, which suggests historical use of a particular material which may be used previously on the site or may be used in the future of the site, giving a note to the natural surrounding environment for the benefit of the local sourcing. Quality is always the prime focus while selecting the material. One major thing which I would like to focus on is quality doesn't often represent the cost. The ability to understand and represent the ultimate comfort, quality, and sustainability that is long lasting will usually come with an experience and good deal of research. This is something you learn while doing the projects. The trend of being organic has infiltrated into every aspect of architecture and design, from space to material. Inclusion of green spaces in the interiors while being sensitive to the outdoor is said to become a norm these days. For example, the plain concrete, which we used to think that is not an aesthetically pleasing material, now has been upgraded. Polished version is increasingly used in modern day interiors and exterior design. The industrial look in interior design has been around for a while, if I say now. In fact, many designers now are using concrete in unexpected ways and unusual ways, from wall clocks to tables to wall claddings to decorative stuffs, including kitchens. Another example is the modern concrete design in lighting. The hard weaving property of this material is being used by many designers for a minimalistic lighting design. The material pattern is overflown these days with fancy materials, making it more and more difficult to be minimalist. As an example, I'll just show two images on the right hand side. One is Church of Light by Taravando. How a simple material of concrete is being used to create a different perception of the space. Designers are looking for innovative ways and materials to add a new dimension to the interiors in terms of energy efficiency, utilization, and comfort. Organic material and products enable space to look larger yet offer the privacy. My next point is contextual approach. A contextual approach to a space will look at the context of the site and surroundings. A house in Athens won't look like a house in Japan. Why? Because the context is different. The historical feature of the area, the people that occupy the area, the type of design that is in the area, the hierarchy of the area, the site analysis, the collaborative approach, everything matters when we go to a contextual approach of design. The interior will respond to the context in both physical and local way and cultural way. Every project should have an element of the contextual approach, as every design should consider its context, site, and surrounding. Some designer may focus on this more than any of the other approaches I'm been talking about in this presentation. There are a number of ways to look at the contextual approach of a site. Contextualism or contextual approach to a design is a process in which structure is designed and responds in the urban fabric way of the environment. Rather than being an architectural style, the conceptual can be seen as a set of values that we incorporate not only in the immediate but in the wider context of the building and even relating to the surrounding. In a design scenario, context give meaning to part of the building and different spaces in the building. The context of the building includes physical and natural factor. For example, if there is a curve just next to the building of a river, then we kind of determine the space in that way. These are adjacent factors which motivate us to design a project in a conceptual base. The next form is conceptual, and our favorite, and whatever we have learned through all the design schools. A conceptual approach is looking at a design through multiple lenses of concepts. This suggests that every part of the project is all about the concept. Something which we do in our basic design when we used to be a student, and something we still hold on to while doing any competitions. The sole focus of the design is about the idea rather than the combination of approaches or process. Conceptual design is something never built, what we say as paper architecture, but rather designed as a form through proactive and exploration of the ideas. Conceptual sketches are widely used to represent the design approach in conceptual design format. Conceptual design can be represented through higher level of development in interior design ideas. Almost every person who wishes to obtain a beautiful design of his house as a client come to you with multiple images they have seen in the magazines or TV or exhibitions and want you to have a house with combination of all these. What happens when you combine all these things? What happens is that a mixture of unrelated and alien things come together. To avoid this, we use conceptual approach in interior design, which helps us in connecting different elements together and come up with a central concept. The most important thing with this approach is to find the main idea around which the entire philosophy of the design revolves. And the project will be developed down from the smallest of details to the largest of ideas around these core concepts. As a result, there are interesting solutions, beautiful interiors, and people that live in that spaces for years enjoy the idea behind it. This central idea is followed by solution, style, decoration, color, texture, script, light, furniture, and the list goes on. This helps in creating a mood, suggests an explicit design for a space, and leads to a truly unique interiors. Conceptually skillful designs combine people with their character and philosophy of the space, and be sure to use the flavor and spice which you get while having a discussion with your client. The sketches are the key to start a conceptual design. Next is the formal approach. The basic formal approach we learn throughout the design school using the principles, symmetry, focus, balance, unity, repetition, emphasis, contrast, and whatnot. How should I define this formal approach? A formal approach to design looks at development of formal rules and principle of design. For example, the classical orders, which you see in Athens, Greece, which you see in Buckingham Palace, which you see in Taj Mahal, the scales, proportions, symmetry, balance, and the golden section, of course, which you see in everything related to design. The design principle of proportion, scale, unity, and harmony translate into interiors as making a formal approach to design. Formal interior design style is intended to attract and bring an attention to a space. It is a very few and similar characteristics in the traditional interior design, but opposite characteristics in the casual interior design, which mix together to form it. Formal interior design spaces is found in commercial establishments, home, elegant hotels. As I said, historical buildings like Buckingham Palace, White House, or for that example, our Parliament building. A formal design layout are very symmetrical and emphasis on the use of vertical lines. Focal point is an important element while designing these spaces. The focal point can be an elegant fireplace, a large bay window, an elaborate window covering with a piece of furniture, high ceilings, large mirror, a crystal chandelier, oriental rug, panel walls, or even the oil paintings or a frame. Can be anything. What I'll do is I'll just give a brief of this formal things, which I'll divide into a couple of factors. For example, emphasis, providing emphasis on the area which we wish to draw attention to. For example, just I said the background or the foreground is very important while designing a formal space. Each area of the room deserves its own level of attention. So we provide emphasis on the areas which we wish to draw attention, creating a focal point with the use of furniture or background colors. There are areas of a room which we might also use to downplay, and to identify there must be a first asset that the state of the natural environment should be seen. For example, a room with open and a good fireplace, there are huge French doors leading to a beautiful veranda overlooking into the ocean can be an emphasis to the space. Too many items of feature weavings the eye attention can be disoriented and confusing. So our idea should always be to focus on a prime attention. We adopt simple and neutral corners and furnishings elsewhere, keeping the floor and the wall minimal and just keep attention on one particular focal point. The other way to approach a formal design is through Unity. What is Unity? Unity is the principle of design that the designer uses to create a thoughtful relationship between spaces like living room, dining areas, bedrooms, and bathrooms. This can be accomplished through repetitions of certain colors, patterns, and lines to develop an overriding theme. However, with too many Unity, the design can drift into something very monotonous. So the idea is not to become it very monotonous rather than creating it harmony. The images on the right shows the pattern and the lines that we use to kind of create the unity in the design. The third part is the contrast. I will say this as variance. Unity is the principle of design that designer uses to create a thoughtful relation, whereas contrast is something where you create to have an emphasis on something which is totally different or opposite. While each room should adhere to a theme, variation is important to room and space, giving a sense of purpose to each space and evoke different feeling. While the occupant move through the buildings, the color, pattern, shapes, and even the space should create a contrast to the user. The next point is of the approach is a collaborative approach. What is a collaborative approach? The approach tends to see end user as the expert in the requirement of the building and engage in collaborative exercise that seems to the end user contributing to the design process. This is particularly popular with the project that have large community or social focuses, such as hospitals, rehab centers, and community buildings, where the skills, knowledge, and experience of the building user can be included in the development of the project. For example, a client comes to you to design a hospital building. You have to understand their requirement first rather than putting your ideas in the first place. This approach is rarely possible in design as a student, but it's very important for young designers while they're starting their own practice. And considering this design approach is very important. You need support from community, you need inspiration people, you need to create a collaboration and brainstorming with the like-minded people involved in the design process. An experiential result is achieved only when client, architect, designers, lighting designers, furniture designers, HVAC, plumbing, everyone has a collaborative approach to the project. This approach allows a seamless inference between the various layers of the project. Let us make necessary changes while the project is still on paper and is actually very cost efficient while designing the project. Making early choices of the tile, stone, flooring, hardware, piping solutions allow more time to make creative use of the material and to address details of installations. Closets and built-in adhesives and junctions and everything that is flexible in nature needs to be put onto the paper first. While these early exchange in the ideas and the design team is able to accommodate projects with identified different concerns of the client, often during this phase, the design team finds a common language to go on with the project. This approach is rarely possible as a student, as I said before, but is very important while you are starting your practice. Okay, this is for the star architects, I'll say, and you can have this approach as well as a design student, maybe dependent on if you strongly believe on some idea and you have a philosophical approach towards your design. The most widely used design approach among big designers, I'll say. This build on the philosophy of the designs, the set and the values that designers use to inform a space. The values could be life values or can be design values which you have acquired over a period of time. And the approach can be a combination of various approaches and can be discussed and then mixed together. See, less is more can be one, less is more can be another, like what Robert Venturi said. And in current scenario, what Jacques Engel says, yes is more. The question is, how do you value work with design problems and you face a particular project with your design ideas? Another approach is sustainable. Sustainable is something which we have already discussed in our last webinar. how we can approach a project through multiple lenses of sustainability, what is important in today's world and what may be important in tomorrow's world. One of the most common design approach in these last decade I have seen is a sustainable approach, and everyone wants a green eco-friendly building, and how to achieve it is something that designers needs to look on. A sustainable approach approaches design through multiple lens of sustainability and use of environmentally sustainable materials, something that have less degraded impact on the environment. This can often involve incorporating sustainable energy use, and net zero energy building can be one example. LEED certification can be another. Experiential design. The experiential design approach is how a user feel while they are in the space. For example, how about we stop designing a 7-feet door and start designing an 8-feet door? How does it make our user feel? The approach to design is extremely immersive. The experiential approach takes into account the end user experience. In this design strategy, a building is designed as an experience. It incorporates every similar pattern and every similar things that can create a different experiential approach to the user. Experiential interior design is the practice of employing experiential values in interior design spaces. I'll say as EID, experiential interior design. EID is the new design approach to interior architecture based on the modern environment psychology of the spaces. The notion of EID is to initiate from subjective impact of a design environment to the experience formation of the design. The intellectual and environmental quotient is not the main focus here, but the main focus here is how the end user feels while being in the space. In practice, this can take many different forms, but above all, the engagement and the emotional connection to the space of the user is the prime focus. So now I'll come to the design process. So what is a design process and how to go about it? First is to analyze the brief, identify the key requirements, research about this, generate the idea, develop ideas, go into production, test whether your production is right or not, then move it to implementation, evaluation of the things, and then the redesign. This is a complete cycle which can just go on and on. Design process involves a step-by-step analysis of a design problem, exploring the ideas and techniques through research, case studies, problem-solving skills, and reliable evaluation through juries to create a design solution that will meet the design objectives. Design process is also a medium where one learns the strength and weakness of the design and adapts to the user needs. Design approach is the guarantee of effective development of the design process. I'll just break this down, the design process. I'll just give a few tips of how we go about the design process. First is to break it down. Then to understand the problem, sketch, study, look for design solutions, look for feedback and improve. Breaking it down. What is breaking it down? Exploring the information you have collected from various sources and breaking it down into the areas that you have and you are meaning to, considering to give your design a problem and influence and context of the design, collect information from the client, from the end users, from all the stakeholders, then brainstorm and analyze, develop a solution, move back to the feedback, refine and improve. Whenever a client comes to you, whether it is a client or a design problem that is given to you by your college or institute, the first thing is to identify the problem and collect all the basic informations, whether it is through case studies, through live studies, through discussions, and through other means of interviewing the stakeholders, and then brainstorming about it. Understanding is the problem is the second point. Read the design brief again and again and again and again. and develop your own interpretation of the project brief. You could make a diagram of the problems or requirement. We also call it a bubble diagram. By understanding the needs, you maybe lead to approach what are you willing to focus on. Diagrams like bubble diagram, proximity charts, furniture layouts can help you in the process. Go to the site, understand the problem that can be arise or that are there right now. Sketch, the most important thing in a design process. You don't really have to be very good with the sketch. You just have to pen down your ideas. It's just a tool. It's not the main form of design, but it's one of the most important tools. Study. Carry on the depth research related to your design problems will inspire you to help discover solutions. You can study how issues have been solved by other designers and how they might direct you to your own. It is not copying, it is studying. You can study it from multiple sources, whether it is through Architecture Digest, whether this is through ArcDaily, through Dezeen, through surfing the websites of other designers. There is a basic difference between copying and taking inspiration. When you copy a design, you are doing a crime. Copying directly is no less than a crime. But taking inspiration and then improvising it according to your solutions is an adaptive use, which is not similar as copying. So when you look at these designs from these designers or these architectural websites, try to understand how they have solved one particular problem, what was their approach, what was their concept, and how they have actually deal with that problem. And then take inspiration from all these designs. And when you're sitting to make your own design, improvise this according to your site, see if it works for you or not. As we have said in few slides before about the context, one solution that may be workable in one place might not be able to work at the other one. Design solution. Your concept and solution will begin to build as you explore the different factors required in your design and the values and ideas you come up with. Your design solution will always come with all the factors we have discussed before. It cannot be approached directly all at once. It will come in part by part, doing all this approach, taking a step, one step at a time. Now I'll come to two case studies to explain you this design process. We have discussed a lot of process till now. What I'll do is a simple illustration of how the design can be. So this is M2 house in Denmark, designed by Big Architects. It's just in a 200-meter square sustainable house. This is a site. How they have approached this site. They cut it into two parts, pull it up, make it a house. As simple as that. A house that sets the new standard for sustainable design and construction, related on a hill and is merging with the context of the place. The roof again gives a proportion what is already being determined by the surrounding. The facade consists of huge glass section providing view and light to the living room and the kitchen. Another project which I'm going to discuss is something we did for Rice Corporate Institute in Kolkata a few years back. So this is a 10,000 square feet office interior. And what we did is we have an 18 feet ceiling height. So instead of making this as one floor, we decided to put 2 floors in this using the steel and iron girders. And we divided the space into 2 parts. The between part which you see in orange color is a double height conference room, and the side parts you see are the cabins. So we kind of maximize the space using the materiality, and the prime focus for doing the space was very functional oriented. We had a multiple discussion with the client. I understand their needs aren't we fulfill in this 5,000 square feet area, and how to convert this 5,000 square feet into actually a 10,000 square feet area. These are the cabins which are double height. I hope that was helpful. So now we are open to question and answer. Architect Rubina said that was very informative. Thank you, Rubina. Sudhiti says that was very helpful session. Thank you, Sudhiti. Do we have any questions for the design process? Fatima is saying very informative and very easy to understand. Thank you, Fatima. Anushri is saying thank you for the session. It was very nice presentation. Thank you, Anushri. We'll put this presentation on our website as well. If you want to download this presentation, you can go to aplusdlab.com. Also, the slides, we will share a link on our Instagram page, that is aplusdlab. Okay, Sudhiti is asking a question. When you are working in a team, how do you approach each other and everyone ideas of a design, and how you move forward with one design? As I said before, that you can go with multiple ideas at one time and you don't really have to marry one design. So when on a team, how we decide is multiple people have their own ideas, and we sit and discuss all these ideas in a team, and we then decide which one is actually more feasible and good for the space. Can you, Mahima is asking, can we elaborate on mezzanine floors? I understand that you are talking about the mezzanine floors we have used in the Rice Institute. So since we already had an 18 feet height, we kind of divided those into two particular parts and creating two different floors. So we use iron girders on top of which we put the ply for making it flooring for the upper floor. Reena is saying categories of design approach is very informative. Thank you, Reena. So Prita is asking, how will you convince a client with your experimenting new designs? Okay. There are multiple forms you have to work out with. So work out with 3D renders, work out with models, work out with the references. The idea is you have to educate the client rather than just convince them. Once they are educated about what you want to do, they can take an informed decision about how the space can be and what they really want. The another thing is you have to have a clear cut brief from the client in the initial time. So whenever you're starting a project, sit with your with your client, understand their needs, understand who is the end user, understand what is the space going to be used for, understand what needs can arise in future. Sometimes you have to foresee things which they are not seeing, and then you have to educate them about all the process and what are they looking at or what are they willing to want. And then you put all these ideas into paper through floor plans, through models, through 3ds, through renderings. A good way can be by using references, and then you show it to your client and let them put their own input, and then you modify your design accordingly. Asha is asking, sir, if we have a small space and we want to make it as a multi-purpose space, like a commercial place, multi-purpose space like a commercial place. I didn't get your question. Where do you have this small space? Like, is it in your home? Is it in a commercial place? What actually is the use of the space? What are you going to be using it for? Who is going to be the end user? If you can elaborate, I can help you with that. Dibya is asking, mind mapping required with designing product interiors. Yes. So mind mapping and sketching is very much required. Uh, See, what sketching really helps you with is it's help you to clear your ideas and your details. Sometimes you might sketch something which is irrelevant to the project and you might not use it, but later on you will come back to that sketch for maybe another project or another design. Or maybe when your design evolves, you understand that this sketch is going to be used at which particular place. Dibya is asking, how can we think of innovative design about interiors where we can create ideas and references? As I told you, that is to look about what other architects and designers are doing these days. Follow Arc Daily, follow Design, follow Architecture Digest, look at the magazines, look at their work. And don't only look at the pictures, read about it. Read what they have done, how they have come to a solution to that problem, and read what actually they have innovated in the process. Professor Salam is asking, what kind of materials or innovation in design would you suggest post-pandemic scenario? Post-pandemic scenario is a big problem as of now, and multiple designers are working their own way out to this. Materiality can be one aspect of this. Antibacterial solutions to a lot of small design ideas are coming into picture, whether it is from sanitary ware to actually building materials. Other than this is the idea of space planning is actually changing. For example, we have recently reorganized our office so that the minimum distance between the people is increased, and at the same time the interaction is decreased. The design process needs to adapt according to the current scenario, and what I will suggest is look at the space and the end users and the time and the functions, and then come up with a collaborative approach about this. Do we have any more questions? Is it important to understand and know 3D software? See, 3D softwares are a tool, just like any other tool. But understanding the design is more important than actually knowing a software. Of course, if you know a software, it's going to get you an upper hand. But again, it is just a tool. Your design does not happen on 3D softwares. Your design happens in your mind. Your design happens on how you approach a problem and come up with a solution. You can use 3D software to express what you want to design, but at the same time, so can be done with the help of sketches. So Prita is asking, would you prefer designing residential space or a commercial space? We prefer designing any space as long as it involves design to express things, as long as it gives us an opportunity to explore, whether it is from a smallest of furniture detail to a large building. We believe in designing anything. Mani is asking, what do you mean by end user? End user is the occupant that is going to use the space. For example, if you're designing a home, the end user can be the residents of the home. If you are designing a commercial space, the end user can be the people visiting the space and occupying the space. If you're designing a public space, end user can be anyone who is visiting that public space. If you are designing a school, the end users will be the teachers, the students. So end users can be all the stakeholders related to that particular space. Sridhi is saying, thank you for a very informative session. Thank you, Sridhi. Sridhi is asking, do you think a costume design is capable of learning interior design? Yes, I believe anyone is capable of learning any kind of design. There is this quote by Corbusier that we don't know if architecture or design can be taught or not, but we do know that design can be learned. So anyone who is willing to learn anything, they can actually learn it.
Good evening, Ankit. Can we conclude now? This is
Yes, sure,
Architect
ma'am.
Jayalakshmi, head of the department.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for coming for the session.
Yeah. Can you conclude now? I think almost you have answered all the questions.
Yeah, we have almost answered all the questions. If there is no more question, we can conclude.
Yeah, it was very informative. I can say with a quote, the function of a design is letting design function.
Right.
That is possible when your design approach is right, isn't
Right,
it?
ma'am.
So on many attendees' demand, we have invited architect Ankit for this webinar. Thanks for considering our request in your busy schedule and make it for us. Thank you very much, Ankit. Thanks for very informative webinar.
Thank you for having me again, ma'am.
Thank you.